Order, it's 10 o'clock. Would you please join us and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let the record show everyone's here except Tim Wickman. And are you on the phone, Tim? Don't think so. He's on vacation, which is good. Everybody needs a vacation. Okay, everybody looked over the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, first up, Matt Wyant, Director of Planning and Development, and/or Pam Kalstrup, Coordinator, Zoning and Land Use, Planning and Development, Public Hearing on Proposed Preliminary Plat of Stony Brook East Phase 1 and 2, a subdivision situated in Lewis Township, and to approve and authorize the board to sign Planning and Zoning Resolution Number 2023-01.
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Melvin, will you do a roll call?
You bet. Chairman Shea.
Aye.
Supervisors Jorgensen.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
And Bell.
Aye. Okay, we're in public hearing. Those in favor, come up and speak if you want. Those opposed, come up and speak. I do want to read something. Let's see. Here is, we received a letter, and I want to read this. It's some concerns of some citizens. It's for the Mings Edition Stony Brook East Phase 1 and 2 case sub 2023-01 to be read into the minutes of record the following. Adjacent property owners Robert and Cheryl Hemmingson attended a subcommittee meeting on July 17, 2023. The Hemmingsons expressed serious concern that the developer Mings has not in previous developments followed the pollution plan. He has not developed and followed proper procedures to contain water flow onto our property, making more water than before contrary to Iowa law. Developer has not put in acceptable catch basin to contain or control drainage onto neighbors. The subcommittee and our county engineers, along with planning and development, explained that this is a county responsibility to require and enforce said developer to adherence of these preventative state and county requirements. This is greatly appreciated since this has never happened with past developments. We have not indicated we are either in favor or not of the proposed development approval, but respectfully appreciate your time and consideration of these concerns. Respectfully submitted, Robert and Cheryl Hemmingson. They're adjacent property owners. Do you guys want to speak to that?
I can on that. I would say that the county has probably learned a lot from developments that happened in the 90s and the 2000s. And in 2015, we did adopt grading and excavation ordinances that does allow us a lot more control over those site grading pieces that happen, whether it be commercial development or residential development, and making sure that protective measures are put into place and that stormwater pollution plans are followed. And we've had good success with that ever since it's been adopted. The inspectors are all trained up on it and have made good relationships with all the contractors who are out there doing that style of work. We do every year have, springtime. You'll see a lot of times where the inspectors are out there. We just call it chasing dump trucks and belly dumps, and making sure that people have their grading permits. But I think with a development like this, that plan is going to be submitted well in advance. It's going to be reviewed, and then the inspectors will follow up as the work progresses. And that's what we told the Planning Commission and all of the public members that attended the Planning Commission meeting on this.
Okay, is this a permanent or temporary basin that needs to go in?
I have not seen any, designs for this yet.
Okay,
So it could be something that is maintained throughout, or it could be something that ends up going away. I think there was more concern actually expressed at the meeting over, what would be phase 2 of this versus phase 1, so.
okay. You got anything?
I'd just like to say, when we did Stony Brook, we got the erosion control plan. It was approved by the NRCS and the DNR. And we followed the plan, and I was never cited for any violations of the plan.
Okay.
And there was numerous checkups, if you will, by the DNR.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, we've got a motion to close public hearing.
Well, did we have a chance for any opposed?
Yeah, I did ask
Okay, all right.
for and opposed.
I'm not opposed, but I do question that. I remember going out there on that first Stony Brook subdivision, and houses were built down on the lower end, and then when they started grading on the upper end, there was quite a bit of mud went into some people's garages. I was out there with Rich Maskey. I don't know if you were even on the board yet or not, but it was a concern. So would you start building at the top of the hill?
This will be at the top of the hill, yes.
Okay. Because there was some, I know Rich Maskey had some issues with the houses being built at the lower level, and then when the grading was done at the upper level, why they had some mud issues.
I don't remember anybody going in anybody's garage.
I don't
I'm
know,
not saying
I don't
there
know
was
how
never
well you know
mud.
Rich Maskey, but he might have got it. It was done kind of backwards according to him anyway, so.
Okay, that it?
Yeah, that's all I
Okay,
can say.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Well, that's what I did, but.
Oh, did you? Then I'll second Scott's.
See, I didn't even hear it. And you seconded?
Yes.
Melvin, please do a roll call.
Chairman Shay.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Jorgensen. Aye.
And now I have some thoughts.
Okay,
All right. I did watch the planning and zoning public hearing on Zoom, just so I could see what the residents around the area were interested in and concerned about. And there were lots of conversations about the drainage. So I know that that's a real concern for everybody that's out there. And all elected officials, it's our duty to increase tax base. And when we started this, or looked at the original plan, that was back before the legislator changed what we could do for, it restricts our cap to 3.25% or 3.5%. And at the time that we approved to put in concrete and curb and gutter, it was with the understanding that it would be bringing full tax base back to the county. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that the return on investment is going to be much less now that we have this cap that's imposed by the state. So that's my thought.
all right. Anybody else? We've got, on the plat, we got, resolution number 2023-01. Anybody want to make a motion on that?
Motion to approve and authorize board to sign, planning and zoning resolution 2301.
I'll second.
Melvin, will you roll call?
Chairman Shay.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Miller.
Nay.
And Jorgensen. Aye. Yes.
Okay. What do we got a time on here for? 10:15 a.m. it says. Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Development, and/or Pam Calstrip, Coordinator, Zoning and Land Use, Planning and Development. Public hearing on case number MIS 2023-01, to amend the Pottawatomie County 2030 Comprehensive Plan by adopting and incorporating the joint city-county land use study and the associated 28E 2-mile limit agreement between the city of Council Bluffs and Pottawatomie County. Do you want to speak to that?
Maybe we can wait till 10:15. We did have to put
Okay.
time on it for another public hearing.
Okay. Then we'll move ahead. We'll come back to this, okay? Because we got 5 minutes. No sense of looking at each other and not saying nothing.
Well, you could move to item C, which to get the sheriff out of here.
That's what I'm gonna do. Item number C, Andy
He's got
Brown,
Two items.
This should be fast.
Sheriff, discussion and/or decision on appointment to the Compensation Board.
Yes, finally, I think we're at the end of our research and studies over composition boards and civil service boards, so, County Attorney Wilbur did come across something saying that I couldn't have the same representative on the Civil Service Commission as I do as the composition board, so, I've removed John Dalton from the comp board and have, would like to appoint Joe Narney as my composition board.
I didn't hear who?
Joe Norman,
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And his term would begin July 1st, 2023 and end in 4 years, correct?
Do we do that for comp board stuff, Matt? Is there terms?
There's 4 years.
4-year term.
4 years.
Okay. Well, we'll need them for this December, though.
Well, it began July 1st.
Oh, if you said 23, okay, sorry, I missed that. Okay, yep, that sounds good.
we just want to get that on record because there sure seemed to be a little confusion on
Yes.
terms and when they
Yes.
started and stopped.
And you'll provide his contact information to
Yes, I'll
Jeanette
email
so
it to Jeanette.
she can update the logs.
And just so for the record, I don't know that you need any sort of motion for that. I mean,
Oh,
it's
we
not-
don't? Okay,
It's, I mean, it could go under receive file, but the reality is with regard to comp board appointments, those are by the elected officials themselves and your
So we don't need
approval is not
approval.
necessary.
okay, good.
It should be noted in the minutes, just so we've got a paper trail of who's getting appointed when.
Right. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Andy. Next up, Andy Brown, Sheriff, and Jeff Thulin, Chief Deputy. Discussion under decision to hire consultant to bid the jail contract with the U.S. Marshals.
So Jeff Grota's here, he got younger, but he's here, well, she's here, but no, Tricia's with me today. It's time to negotiate contracts with our Fed inmates, and, I think the best option to do is to hire this private contractor to put the squeeze on the marshals and make sure they're paying us the proper rate, per inmate, and I know she's got a lot more information for you, with some numbers, but we're looking at adding upwards of $1 million a year in the federal contract, so.
I talked with Jeff yesterday
Okay.
because of that, the cost of the contract. It just, it's baffling, but he did just get Polk County through, correct, Trish?
Right. He's actually gotten a couple of counties, and I've reached out to a couple counties that he provided for references. A couple of them were in New Mexico,
Okay,
and they were able to secure the cost that he negotiated for them, which was upwards in the same area that we're looking at, and then even above. I know we presented that 139 number in the initial contract, but
mm-hmm,
he's even actually hoping we can go a little higher just based on some of the costs that are out there nowadays, like with our food costs. Some of those, some of our utility costs that seem to be rising, that we don't always have the ability to control.
mm-hmm.
So he's even hoping, just because we, as the jail, do a lot more than sometimes what the contract requires of us. We do a lot more transports than
Oh,
what,
okay.
what we originally, agreed to do back in 2018. So I think the, ability for them to choose the different counties that they had at one time, there's a lot of counties that are choosing to not be involved, just because it is a lot of work. And it can be a little taxing on the staff, but we're already on our way to meeting all of their requirements. So I think, as we continue to grow and get better and implement those policies that they're really wanting us to be in compliance with, We're gonna be one of the only games in the local area. I think right now.
Trish, how many beds do we have for them? Is this federal?
Yeah, these are both our Fed inmates, both marshals and our ICE
Okay,
inmates. So we haven't really put a cap on it, per se. We're looking at maybe 85. That's what we're gonna base the cost on, is about 85.
okay,
Is that typically what you have, or?
We go more off of the nights that they're with us because they're so transient. They
Right.
move them quite a bit, so we look a lot at the nights, that they're housed, because that's how we get paid, is based on the nights that they stay. So I think last year, like our marshals, we had 22,500 evenings that we were paid for, and, for ICE, it was 9,197 nights. And with his experience, I mean, he used to negotiate those contracts, so he knows a lot of the ins and the outs. He knows where we can ask for maybe a little bit higher costs, based on some of the things, like using some of our higher paid staff members for transport, reimbursement.
okay.
He kind of knows those intricacies.
Do I understand that either he delivers results or he doesn't get paid? Is that what I understand?
Correct. Yeah, if we choose at the end to not, go with what he's proposing, we can walk away from it.
Okay.
We've been talking about this for a long time. This would be a good deal if it all goes through. Questions?
And you said we would fund this from the general?
From our general fund, yes, because it's not in their budget.
Because the money that we would get from the marshals and the ICE, it goes to the general fund anyway, so it'd be just a wash anyway, so.
Anything, Mitch?
No, I think
All right.
using the board's budget out of the general fund to take care of this would be a good place for it.
Okay,
Okay, so I will make the motion to approve to hire Summerall Law Firm to bid the jail contract with the U.S. Marshals.
okay.
I'll second.
Does that include the contract with ICE also?
Yes, yeah, we're gonna keep it as a rider on the marshal contract. He actually encouraged us to do that because he felt as though, when you do the contract for the marshals and you put the rider, with ICE with it, it gives us more flexibility, and he highly encouraged that.
Okay. Okay, got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone disapprove? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, that's exciting.
Really,
Yes.
Say what's it?
Okay, we're
Did
gonna
you
back,
give a dollar amount on that contract?
Thank you.
I don't have it right in front of me. What was it?
very,
Packet, it's like
80.
86 something.
Yeah, 85, 86.
85, 86? Is that what you said? 85?
85,000, 86,000. It's buried deep into the packet. We can't get to it.
We got
Okay.
just tons of paper, tons of pages on this packet.
Okay. 85,000.
I'll get you the dollar amount.
Well, we'll get it to Jeanette
Okay.
for just get it recorded in minutes properly.
Okay, we're gonna back up. Matt Wyan, Director of Planning and Development, and our Pam Kalstra, Coordinator, Zoning and Land Use Planning Development. Public hearing on case number MIS 2023-01 to amend the Potawatomi County 2030 Comprehensive Plan by adopting and incorporating the Joint City-County Land Use Study and the associated 28E 2-mile limit agreement between the City of Council Bluffs and Potawatomi County.
Motion to open public hearing.
Second?
Melvin, will you do a roll call?
Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisors Bell.
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Okay, anybody in favor of speaking to this? You got anything to say, Brandon? We good?
I would just say, so in June, we held a joint city-county study session where we presented the facts and the findings as well as the proposed policies for the new 2-mile limit agreement. That effort was undertaken for the last 3.5 years between the city and county. And at the end, I think we've come up with a set of policies that allow for growth to occur in that 2-mile area, but in a way that, would preclude it from ever having non-conforming development happen if the city ever tried to annex it, or that would prevent us from ever extending infrastructure out into those areas. So we got some policies in there that it does allow for some subdivision activity to occur, both with annexation or delayed annexation. So we feel this is the path that we should walk down here for the next 20, 30 years with the 2-mile area.
We're still calling it a 2-mile when it's more like a 3-mile.
So the planning area was 3 miles, and that was just so that as annexations occur, we have an understanding and a guide for what those areas that are now becoming the 2-mile, what they should be from a land use standpoint, as well as from a growth service area. But the policies are specific to just a 2-mile area, and that's what we would work with the county to implement.
And that's because the 2-mile is not a static line that's set in stone forever. It moves with every annexation out into the county. So then that 2-mile then buffers out. So really we needed that 3-mile study area to know how to classify future lands that come within that. I'd also add too that at the heart of these policies included in this document, I would say would be the notion of fiscal constraint. From both a provision of utilities and roads and also provision of services along with future growth. So, expansion of library services, expansion of police services, fire services, all of that that goes into expanding a city. So that I would say is at the heart of why we're interested in this revised policy going forward. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Brandon.
No, thank you.
You got anything, Matt?
No, I agree with city staff on this. I mean, they did the majority of the work that came along with this, and I definitely compliment them on that because it was a large task to undertake. And now we have more than a 2-mile study, as Susan pointed out, showing as the city grows, we're already going to be ahead of it. We'll be ahead of the game this time. We know what to expect as that boundary moves. And it's going to help preserve that ground that the city's going to need to make extending sewer with the housing density and population push that will come. The mayor's always pretty quick to say Omaha's really going to run out of room here pretty quick. Sarpy County is a little bit ahead of the game with some of the sewering options that they're doing, but it's at a great cost. And so really the next place to come is over here. So we should see quite a bit of growth come from that.
What'd they say in the next 30 years, they look for up to 500,000 people in this area?
Yep.
That's, that's good. We're thinking ahead.
Brandon, I appreciated that meeting that you guys presented. I think you guys did great work. I'm all for working in conjunction with the city. It's a city-county relationship that I think is going to be doing a lot of great things for the areas.
I think we'll find it to be mutually beneficial in that
yes.
growth in the city is growth in the county tax base
You
as
bet.
well.
You
So
bet. I totally agree.
yes,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor? Anybody on the phone? Okay, anybody opposed that wants to speak?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Melvin, will you do a call? Roll call?
Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisors Jorgensen,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Belt.
Aye.
This county planning commission document, did you guys prepare that in-house? Or who prepared this document?
Brandon.
Chris.
Okay. I think there's just one word change that you might want to, on city service area 2. I think it should be development served by municipal. So it matches the other 3 service areas.
Okay.
Okay, next up,
Is there two motions that need to be made with this?
That's what I'm,
there is.
Yes.
So the motion that needs to be made to amend the Potawatomi County 2030 Comprehensive Plan by adopting and incorporating this joint city-county land use study and the associated 2080 2-mile limit agreement between the city of Council Bluffs and Potawatomi County.
Okay, first up, discussion under decision to authorize the board to
wait a
sign.
minute.
No, I just made that motion.
Okay, you made them both?
No, I just made this
A?
first motion.
There's two action items here. I'm not quite sure, but I think Pam nodded her head, so she understands why there's two items here. I don't,
So the first motion you need would be for a motion for resolution number
2023.
2023-02.
Yes,
well,
And then your second one is resolution number 2023-02.
for the 2080. So we'll do
no,
the
wait a
first
minute.
one.
No, wait a minute. What was the one Scotty?
Here,
It was a 2080.
that's the second one.
Well, I don't know, I'm going off her sheet.
Oh, okay.
She's got here.
Oh, there's two resolutions, but there was just a blank, motion that Scott just read.
Well, I'll make a motion that I'm sorry, you wanna amend that?
Well, I mean,
Let's
that's
do
why I was
this. Let's
asking,
do
Are
this.
there two resolutions rather than,
Correct.
There's
okay,
two.
So this
Let's-
one, this at the top shouldn't have been in the agenda.
So the
So-
resolution number 2023-02 to authorize the board to amend the Potawatomi County 2030 Comprehensive Plan specifically by adopting and incorporating the joint city-county use study. That's our first resolution.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Okay.
Is there any way we
Melvin?
can make this readable?
It's a PDF document that, you'll be able to enlarge and print out whatever paper size that you want. We just reduce it down to 8.5 by 11, just.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of content in here, and trying to study it, it's just like, I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me. It just got too small.
That's why you have Matt and Pam.
Yes, I know.
Got a motion and a second to approve 2023-02. Melvin, will you do a roll call?
Chairman Shay.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt. Aye. Miller
Aye.
and Jorgensen.
Aye.
Okay, next up, resolution 2023-03 to authorize board to enter into the joint city-county use or land use 2080 agreement with the city of Council Bluffs and directing the board of supervisors to execute this agreement on behalf of Potawatomi County, Iowa.
I'll make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
Okay,
Can I ask who drafted this document?
The city.
The city? It's got typos in it as well. Can we clean those up before we sign it? The joint city-county land use 2080.
Okay.
Paragraph 4, there's a couple. Paragraph 2. They're just little bitty nits. I mean, it's just not clean and pretty.
Well, it'll be here for quite a number of years, so it's not a
So-
bad idea. So people in the future won't be making fun of us.
okay. Melvin?
Chairman Shay.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
If you want, Chris, I'll come over and,
So maybe that first motion doesn't need to be dealt with.
okay.
Well, if she's got them, Susan, you can give them to Chris or Courtney if they can
Circle it,
circle
we'll
them.
take a look at it, and we'll make the corrections that are due.
I think in the past too, our legal advice has been if they are non-substantive type of typo kind of things
Yeah,
Right.
that we can fix those administratively.
Right.
it doesn't change the substance at all. I mean,
You
it's
guys
just
don't have a spell
grammar.
check, is that what it is?
It's just grammar.
The funny thing is, I think it went through both legal departments.
Oops.
I never saw any of those. Just FYI.
Thanks, you
The
guys.
things that are printed large enough, I can read them. I notice things when they're smaller.
If you want me to
it's
stop
harder.
over, call me or whatever we gotta do, okay?
It wasn't, I should have on there.
Thanks for coming in. Bye,
Thank you.
Courtney.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Chris, Brandon.
Overwhelmed.
Okay, next up is Tom Coleman, Manager, Regional Water. Discussion and or decision for additional money on the rural water extension. I do not see Tom here. Is he in the hall?
Is Tom on the phone?
He's down the hallway.
Who talked, did somebody talk to him?
No,
Matt?
no.
Well. Is Matt leaving?
Hi, Jeff.
You can talk to him.
He didn't? Okay.
Okay, next up,
I
Mark
don't know,
Shute.
did he call you to get on the agenda or
Well, I talked to him about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
to get on the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I mean,
he said he was gonna be here, so
Oh, okay.
whatever. He ain't here, he
Well, he
ain't
didn't
here.
show up yet.
Mark Shoemaker, Executive Director, Conservation, Jeff Franco, Deputy Director, Conservation, and Terry DeVore, Red Line Renewables. Discussion and or decision to provide a loan to support a solar panel power purchase agreement for Hitchcock Nature Center. Hi, guys.
I'll let Jeff and Terry talk more about this, but this is something that we started back when we were doing improvements up at Hitchcock Nature Center. Solar was one of the things that we wanted to try up there, incorporate into the buildings or onto the land, use it to reduce some of our costs and also act as kind of a demonstration to the public and people coming to the parks as far as renewable energy and how it can be used. So I'll turn it over to these guys.
Mark, this is part of a grant, correct?
Yeah,
It is required by the grant,
That's correct,
Okay,
required by the grant.
okay.
So,
Go ahead, you guys.
yeah, back in 2016, in response to growing visitation and some of the different needs as a result of that growing visitation at Hitchcock Nature Center, we looked at doing a bunch of improvements up there. That was the front entrance, redoing the front entrance of the lodge, expanding parking, making everything safer. With that, we also wanted to include sustainability measures as well. So everything we did was kind of in accordance with how we operate in the Conservation Department, how we shed water. We're using renewable resources as much as we possibly can, whether that's resources on the ground, like with the pavilion that's going up right now, where we harvested trees and incorporated that into the shelter, or working on green technology as well. And so as part of that project, we wanted to do solar as well, so we put that in the grant, and that is part of the requirement for this to get this done. One of the most responsible ways and feasible ways to get solar done that limits the liability to the county is to work with a power purchase agreement and a solar provider that can work that power purchase agreement. So that's where Terry's gonna come in a little bit to provide some details on his experience, different counties, different municipalities that he's worked with, allow for some question and answers. And then he'll also discuss kind of the funding mechanisms that he uses to get this going as well. And maybe a brief introduction on how power purchase agreements work as well, I think it'd be great. And then after that, just kind of decide if the county can be kind of a third backup with kind of back this up with a loan there as well. So, Terry, I'll hand it over to you.
That was a mouthful. Thanks for letting me be here. Terry DeVore, Red Line Renewables. Been in solar for 15, 16 years, or maybe even more than that. But started Red Line 8 years ago. In Iowa, I'm just outside of Des Moines. Got by the end of the year, we'll have 120 operating systems throughout the state. So by far, not that we're keeping track, but I think we have the most solar arrays of anybody in the state. So, but it's a passion of mine. So I got set up with solar because nobody was figuring out how to get it feasible for non-taxable entities. Central College kind of what got me started, and cities and schools. And if you see kids come to school that are on their robotics team, and this project came because of them, then it's cool to get them excited about science and math. So, and we know we need to do it. But where I come in is not necessarily just the design, you know, Jeff reached out to me, or Mark reached out to me, gosh, I don't know, in the fall, maybe?
Yeah.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it's kind of a long process.
So we looked at all the facilities out at Hitchcock, campgrounds, the lodge, et cetera. Came up with the ones that are feasible, that I think I can get to work financially and have savings for the county. And we deal with cities and schools and counties throughout the state, and honestly, it doesn't always work, okay? You know, it's a numbers game. So, but when we can make it work, you know, then we try to. And so this is one of those where, you know, we've got some opportunity to get it to work if certain things come into play, and one of those being the USDA's got a grant program that we can take advantage of. Obviously, we can take advantage of tax credits that the county can't directly take advantage of all of them anymore, or there's some new ones you can, but you can't get all the benefit we can. Bring all that mixed together, and we think we can get a savings for the county. Get solar up there, use clean energy, demonstrate it, and long-term save even more. So that's kind of the reason why. I don't know where else you want me to go
Yeah,
with
well,
this. I
maybe
mean,
let's talk
I'm
about
not
power
sure what
purchase
they see.
agreements and how those work for you, Redline.
Okay, so a power purchase agreement is basically you're agreeing to let me put my equipment on your land, your building, and all you're doing is buying electricity. So I own the equipment, investors and I get all the tax benefits of owning it, we sell you electricity. If the solar system doesn't produce, you know, the equipment's bad, it's down, weather, I can't sell you what I don't produce. So there's really the cool thing is the risk is gone. I mean, if you built your own system, paid for out of cash, well, you take on that risk. You take on, okay, did I get the right design? Did the contractor install it right? Did they design it correctly for what I got? Yes, they told me it would produce, 20,000 kilowatt hours a year. Will it really do that? Do I got a limit, do I not? That's the risk you get as an owner, okay? And if you haven't been in solar or don't have a bunch out there and been tracking it for the last 15, 20 years, who knows, right? The cool thing with power purchase agreement is I take on that risk. So yes, I'm doing it my investors are doing it because they want all the tax goodies. They're making money doing something else. They'd rather their money, instead of going to the federal government pay taxes, they'd rather go to a project they can actually see some benefit happen to somebody. So that's why they do it. I do it for the passion to make a little bit of money out, not a lot. There's not a Mercedes out there of mine out there, so I'm driving F-150, so. But the risk isn't there. So I take on the risk of production, okay? I take on the risk of how many times I gotta come out here and fix stuff. If I got some bad equipment, I gotta deal with warranties. If we have a hailstorm that has baseball-sized hail and it damages, I gotta deal with it, okay? Knock on wood, haven't had that happen yet, but I know the airport had one a few years ago. I remember that. Was glad I didn't have any solar arrays out here because that would, it's windshield glass, so whatever will break a windshield. And then you have lots of options. The cool thing is after all the tax goodies are done, it's a 20-year contract usually. After the tax goodies are done 5 years, then you start looking at, okay, we know what it takes to operate this. We've seen Redline come out or not come out, to fix stuff and check on. We know what it's produced. We know what it's saved. Does it make sense to buy it direct and have a bigger savings, okay? We know we estimated X was gonna be the cost. Well, we know what we're getting. And if that's not enough, no big deal. We're saving money on the electricity because the rate's cheaper than I'm buying from Mid-Am right now. There's no risk there. You're never obligated to buy it. We could get through the end of 20 years, the contract, and you say, hey, Terry, we don't want it anymore. Take your your equipment off of our property, and we just move down the road. Or you can say, hey, we like what you're doing. We're not ready to buy it, but we want to keep going. That's options. You've got a lot of options in our purchase agreements than any properly written, legally written power purchase agreement. Should never obligate you to buy it. Gives you options, but you never obligate. So the big benefits, you don't have to come up with cash. You mitigate the risk because you don't own it. You get the indirect benefit of the tax capability or properties that you can't get all of them direct. And you get an immediate savings on your operating budgets. So, doesn't always work out, doesn't work on every meter that we've got out there, but the 6 of the 8 we think we can do, it works out well enough.
Where would you put these panels?
We've got 6 different locations, so we'd have it on the roof of the lodge, we'd have it on the roof of the, can you see that?
They have it in their
Okay.
package as well.
It's the roof of the lodge, the roof of the maintenance building, because there's really no ground arrays there. A small ground array by the south residence, and then a little bit larger one up by the north residence that will also accommodate the campground and the shed across the street, across the road. We would consolidate those. So, very visible. Those will be. The lodge roof won't be, except when you go up on top of the tower, you'll see it, which is pretty cool. You'll see the maintenance one because of that steep thing, but the ground mount, every camper who drives back there is gonna see it.
Okay.
So the tax credits you're getting is gonna lower the price of the electricity? Is that what I'm?
That's how we make it work.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm getting a 30% tax credit, plus I'm depreciating it. So I get to write it off as a depreciation because I own the asset. With the changes in the Inflation Reduction Act, the county can get that 30% directly now as a rebate. You have to pay for the system, and then 6 months or a year, however long it takes for that to happen, you get that rebated back. But you still have to come up with all the money. Okay. We take the tax advantages. I'm also going to be going for a USDA grant. That's what helps bring it down. Without it, we don't quite get there. A standard PPA without the USDA rate and today's 7.5% interest rate loans that I get, it's 11.5 cent cost of electricity. Well, you're offsetting 9, so that doesn't work. Okay, if the grant wasn't available to me, we wouldn't be here. I mean, I don't do projects that don't save me money. If we apply for the grant and if we're successful, then we would move forward. At that point, I'm charging you 7.5 cents, you're offset 9. In the end, you're saving $3,300 a year in operating costs without spending any money other than pay your attorney to read the contract and a little bit of his time to help coordinate stuff on site.
So what is the depreciation schedule?
It's a 5-year depreciation schedule. It's maintenance.
So 5 years it's depreciated out.
Technically it's 6, but the last year is only like 2%, so.
Right, okay.
So what's the life expectancy of the panels?
30 plus years. They have a 25-year manufacturer warranty that says in 25 years it'll produce 80% of what it did out of the box. I don't plan to ever touch them. I mean, it's no moving parts. It's windshield glass. People will ask me, what about technology? Is it going to be so much better? Well, yeah, but I got pretty good windows in my house. Yeah, I can probably get an extra 1%, but I don't care to spend $50,000 to upgrade the windows in my house because they're not leaking like a sieve. So if not broke, don't fix it type of attitude. But down the road, if panels are super cheap and it makes sense, well, great. The infrastructure's already there. I mean, the wire's there, the conduit's there, the racking's there. But that's 30 years down the road.
Are the panels made over here?
In the U.S., you mean?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay.
There's only a few that are made in the U.S. There's some that are assembled now. It's a crapshoot, and it depends on availability. I mean, I have panels that are from, of course, China, from Vietnam, from Korea, from Japan, from France, Germany, Italy, and some from the U.S. Some that I have from the U.S. that manufacturer's not even around. So, and it really depends on who's got some available.
Availability.
Yeah.
About any country other than China would be good.
Jeff, can you talk a little bit about?
I wish my phone wasn't in China
Yeah,
too, right?
all right.
Yeah.
I agree.
The loan support you're looking for from
Sure,
us?
yeah, and I think maybe that's where, Terry, you can probably go into the 2 different loans that you'd be looking at, your success rate with those. And we can I'll follow up with that after that.
Okay.
So our current pricing, most of the PPA cost is to cover the loan, because we're borrowing money to make it work, okay? The operating cost of a solar system after the fact is about 2 cents, 2.5 cents. Okay, so out of the 7.5 cents, 5.5 of it's to cover the loan. We can get loans all day long. We've got loans with 6, 7 different banks. And we've got almost 40 projects out there with loans. So they keep calling me up, hey, you got more projects. So there's no, it's nice to have history, you know. So that wasn't the case when I first started, but now it's banks calling me to say, hey, you gonna do any more loans this year? So I can get 7.5%, depends on what treasuries do, and they keep going up. Hopefully they're leveled off, maybe another 0.5%. If I bring it down, the lower the cost of the loan, the lower rate that I can offer to the county. So if in the combination, the USDA grant buys that loan down as well, a smaller loan than what it's just math. If I get a grant, I don't have to have as much of a loan. If I can get a loan from another source that's less than 7%, then that can translate to even additional savings, because the power purchase agreement electricity rate can be lower. The state of Iowa has a 2% program, or at least it did. I have 3 projects already approved that we're under construction now for. We'll apply for it. I don't know that we'll get it, you know. They're trying to use that for innovative technologies, but we'll apply. You know, if they'll do it, then great. We can bring that. We can get the USDA loan or a USDA grant and a 2% loan. We can bring that cost quite a bit down. And then there's the range anywhere in between. So, you know, a 5% loan would bring that down, you know, another 0.5 cent, maybe a cent. I just have to run the math. So then instead of saving $3,500 a year, you're saving $5,500 a year. So if the county can loan me money at whatever rate, we can run that in. It's just additional savings. You're still getting the loan. You know, if you're providing a 5% loan, you're getting a 5% payment every month. You know, I backstop the payments because, you know, there's more revenue in the summer than there is in the winter because there's more sunshine. Okay, we sell more electricity in the summer. But that's no different than any other bank loan I have. So, you know, we're used to that. We plan for it. You know, it's just, we have options, you know, so whatever way we can reduce the cost of the loans, use of grants, or reduce installation costs, it just translates down to a lower power purchase agreement rate, which translates to more savings.
And so I think, Terry, your first options are going to be to go for whether that was the Iowa Economic Development Grant or the USDA grant to offset those. Success rate, you said, was around 90%.
Our USDA success rate's been in the 90%.
Right.
We've gotten probably 20 of them, or of the 20 or so that we've provided, there's only 2 that I didn't get. And it's because I messed it up.
Okay.
I jumped the gun, I started spending money before I got approved, and if you do that, then it's not eligible, so. Learning curve, steep one.
Yeah. And so from the county for this, as it is a requirement of the grant, but also just the benefits, we want to make sure that we move forward with this. So he's got a good success rate on how he would go about securing that funding. In the unlikely chance that he doesn't get those, we'd like to have the county agree to provide, kind of be the third backstop on this loan option, so that he can come to the county for that rate, and we can make sure that this project moves forward in accordance with the grant, and then provide all of those benefits as well. And that's really what we're after. And I think when we talked, what you require is $160,000 for that loan. And so we'd like the county to agree to just kind of say, yes, we will back that up if possible, if needed.
For 150.
160, I think it was 159 is what he said, so 160 would be rounding up just a little bit.
So we would back it up potentially at 160,000 at 7%.
And so that rate, we can negotiate that rate a little bit and see what's going to make sense.
Okay.
I think
The lower the rate, the cheaper the price that I can provide, so.
As
It's
far
6
as the return on the energy.
on the energy, right?
Okay.
So the savings to the county on either end.
Right, no, I see.
I'm just assuming you can borrow money cheaper than I can, so your cost of money is cheaper than mine.
Right.
It's
You
just
have
way
to
to
have
translate
bids.
that. And we still have to finalize the costs and
Right.
that, I mean,
I think that's something Mitch can work out.
Yeah, we've chatted briefly on it too, and I kind of have a figure in mind of where we need to be with our loan rate,
Okay.
to justify offsetting what the cost of the utility savings would be.
Yeah, and there might, I don't know, would there be an opportunity for a local institution here that wanna take that on? Who do you finance with? Any of the local banks in Iowa now?
well, all my banks are in Iowa. I'm not sure if
You use
they do
Wells
this.
Fargo, you use US Bank, or
No, they
mostly mom
don't
and
want to
pop?
play very well.
Mom and pop?
I'm too
Bank?
small of a
Right.
company for a big bank.
Yeah.
You know,
So
they
you're
want-
using-
They want a couple extra zeros.
You're
on it.
using locals, banks?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you're always applying for a USDA loan through whatever bank, right?
well, the USDA is a grant.
Is it okay?
Okay, they have a loan program.
Right, that's what I'm familiar with.
We haven't used that. We go for the grant on most of our projects. So then the bank doesn't matter which bank.
How big of a grant will you go for?
Probably $50,000-$60,000. It'd be about 25 to 30%. It depends on the scoring criteria. The max is 40%. But it's a scoring criteria, and that's one of the reasons we're successful, is my grant writer's got a very good idea of where things should score that will get approved, so we don't get too greedy.
Okay,
The only guarantee is if I don't apply, I don't get it.
right.
And if you don't score well enough, you don't get it.
What's your chances on this, do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I mean, the USDA's got a bunch of money. They got awarded a whole bunch, or allocated a whole bunch of money last year. And I think they're chomping at the bit to spend it before, a new regime comes in and says, no, we're gonna take your money away for clean energy, for whatever reason, We're gonna, we'll feel it out. They're getting through last year's, they're just now getting through awarding projects that went in the February, or March application.
Mm-hmm.
The next application is the end of September, so we'd like to be able to apply for that application, which means we probably won't hear about the grant until the end of the year. So then, depending on what interest rates will depend on whether I can go forward, take the risk on the grant or not. Or we simply wait until I know that we're getting a grant before we do something, which would mean we build it next spring.
Okay,
That's just, I won't know, if we apply in this next go round, which is the end of September, and I've gotta have a couple weeks to get it put together, then I probably won't know whether we're getting awarded until close to the end of the year, November, December.
I know a farmer and trainer who is taking advantage of solar panels to provide electricity or provide power to his hog feeder pig operation. And
Sure.
he's very, very happy with that development. He looked at other ways, and he doesn't know why other farmers don't take advantage of those operations. Are you kind of in that field too, a little bit, or not?
I do, I mean,
Okay.
I focus on, there's all kinds of installers out there now.
Okay.
There's some of them you need to watch out for, buyer beware.
Okay.
But there's not many people who do this
Okay.
in Iowa.
Right.
It's not lucrative in Iowa. There's plenty of them out throughout the states, but they're gonna be where, we're paying 9 cents a kilowatt hour. You go to California, you're paying 19. And if you go to Illinois, you're paying 13, but you're also getting paid back with some SREC credit programs that you're paying back to be a year. Okay, developers are flocking there. They wanna buy their Mercedes, so, their boats and all that other stuff. That's why you don't see them around here. It's just not lucrative enough. But
And then you, as the owner of the facility, then you take advantage of, the power company might be buying power from you from that facility?
No,
You go down that
so
road?
we're with Mid-American Energy, so we would be net metering. Okay, and Mid-Am is required to net meter. Net meter is basically, when we put solar in, they put a bi-directional meter, and it will read both directions. So it will read when you're pulling from Mid-Am and when you're sending it back to them. So if the solar array is producing, I'd say on a sunny Sunday day, but campgrounds are sucking them down on the weekend. So, let's say it's on a day where there's plenty of sunshine, you're not using all that power right away, okay? You're gonna use it first, then it's gonna go back to mid-am, and it's gonna go down the line, it's gonna feed the next ones, okay? You get credit in kilowatt hours for everything you send back, not in dollars, in hours. So that at the end of the month, or billing cycle, they'll say, okay, you pulled 50,000 kilowatt hours, you sent me 10,000 kilowatt hours, I'm charging you for 40. Okay? If for some reason, and there will be some summer times that, okay, you pulled 50,000, but you sent back 60,000, you now have a credit in your bank for 10,000. You can use that up next month or the following month. And you can roll that over, and then once a year, April 1st or January 1, but for us, April 1st makes the most sense. They start the clock over. So we're not trying to be rolling over year to year to year, but we can month to month, and then April 1, start the bank over. The best day is you get to April 1 and you have 1 kilowatt hour left. Okay, you donated your 3 cents worth, and we keep going. I don't know how you donate it, but I mean, that's what happens. That doesn't happen in every utility. It's only required by Iowa law on the 2 investor-owned utilities, which is Mid-American Energy and Alliant. If we go up to Corn Belt or to some of the RECs, they're not required to do that. They're required to pay you for anything you send back. That's a federal requirement. But you get paid avoided costs, which would be 2-3 cents. So economics are a lot different for a farmer or anybody else that's in Guthrie County REC versus Mid-American Energy.
The other thing to consider on this maybe is, I think the benefits are fairly clear from a financial savings with this for the Conservation Department and the county that way as well. But this could also be considered kind of a pilot project for the county. Is this something that we want to do on more county buildings to offset additional costs that way, to set that example of offsetting our carbon footprint for the public as well? So I think there's benefits that could potentially be realized later on. Whether that's just how the county is perceived or financial savings as well.
Hand in hand with that, Jeff, we've talked before that the county right now is working on a zoning ordinance specific to solar. And this would be a good learning model to put that through, just to help educate all of us on the terminology and with what the expectations are, so that we get the ordinance right the first time.
And we're happy to help the county. We've helped several counties already, so, and cities and schools, obviously.
Mitch, the 160. Talk to me about it.
Well, the way I would, say we'd structure it as a loan. I don't know what your loan repayment is, usually 5 years, 7 years, or how far out do you
It's
go
a
on those?
20-year amortization. We usually fix it for 5, and then adjust it to an index of some sort. That's what most of my banks we have. So it's 20-year amortization.
Okay, so that's the number I needed.
And then it's fixed rate for 5 years, so I get through the tax period. And then most of them don't want to do a 20-year loan.
Right.
They don't want to stick their neck out for 20 years on T-bills. They want to do them 5 or maybe 10. So we just adjust in 5 years to whatever
index we're
to an index.
So yeah, it would be something kind of unique for us, but I think we've talked about in the past of trying to do it for some of if a smaller city needed some type of smaller loan to come in instead of having to go through some of the other programs that are more expensive to get through. I don't know all the legalities of us loaning to an entity, but that would be something for us to explore. I would imagine we can do it. It makes sense as long as we're recovering our costs of what we're making on our interest rates for what it's sitting in our bank account for, as long as we're recovering at least that, plus then he's, paying that back to us that way, and we're still saving on the utilities. That's a win, but it would be a unique challenge, it'd be something different, but I think worth exploring.
You feel it's worth it?
Yeah, and hopefully they get the grants and all that other things, and this just serves as okay, just because they didn't come through for whatever reason, then the county has it ready to go, so.
And you could possibly not use this much.
Yeah, if I can get exactly. If we get the grant, then maybe, and depending on what the costs come out, if if I don't need 160 and I only need 130, well, I don't care to borrow more than I need.
And we'd have to figure out what type of, guarantees and other things besides just the collateral of the solar panels themselves and what all that stuff would require. But
Okay.
that'd be for exploring.
The business continuity of Red Lion would be of interest.
Been in business for 8 years, so.
And you'll be in your business for another 8.
Well, don't all gang up and have the bus come hit me by a bus. That's always the question, what happens when you get hit by a bus?
That could
No,
happen
it's all-
out in front of the courthouse.
We have things in place so that it will continue, the monitoring is automatic, the billing can be turned into, invoicing is made automatic. My accountant's on board, my legal guys are on board, so, if I disappear, it still can continue on and not an issue, so that's all in play.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
No, the only thing I guess I
Every
would,
bank asks me that question.
I would rather.
I'm a banker.
I'd rather, I'm not against the loan for the purchase agreement, but I'd rather wait to see what the other things happen in place before we commit to that, I guess. Does that need to be committed before you go apply for the grants?
What I would need for the grant is a contingent letter of intent on the power purchase agreement.
Okay,
Okay. Right now, I don't need a commitment on the loan, but the power purchase agreement rate would be at, assuming I'm doing a 7.5% interest loan.
okay,
So it's gonna be at that rate in the documents. Doesn't mean that, that can be changed, I mean, it can be changed, we make that contingent, and I've done this, okay?
okay,
So we have 5 projects that we did a contingent letter of intent.
okay,
So that I had that as backup, I had to have that in order to apply for the grant.
right.
Because otherwise USDA is like, you're just pulling projects out of the sky, it's not a real project,
No,
right?
right.
County didn't know about it,
Right.
something like that. It's one that says, yes, if you get the grant, we're moving forward, okay? It's contingent though.
Okay.
But it also says if you don't get the grant, then the project won't happen.
But
I
we
mean, it
can-
may if some
but
other
we-
economic things
There's
change.
grant cycles, we can try to do the project later, or it's dead for that
It
grant?
depends. So right now, the program's in there. I think it'll continue in the spring, but their buckets of money change. And
Sure.
the scoring criteria, the score that's successful changes. And we have to guess that ahead of time, but we base that on what's been trending. So,
We're trying to get to the September round.
because the next one is March. So if we don't apply in the September one, we wait until March, the March one, and then
Different deal.
I'm just now yesterday was the first phone call I got from the March one. So the ones that I put in for March, yesterday was the first phone call that I got that we're getting a grant.
Oh, from this past March?
From this past
Okay.
March.
All right,
So if we wait until the March one, it'll be this time next year before we know that we're gonna get the grant, before we move forward, and then,
okay.
it's a scramble to the end of the year to get it built before the end of the year, because tax investors like putting money in this year, not next year. January 1 is a whole different year than December 31st.
And then circling back on that, the need for the county to back this up is that the requirements of the grant as well. That we've gone through other grantors, not
Your grant.
his grants, the grants that the conservation department's done.
Yes.
And so the grace period on that is only so long. So we've got to move forward with this probably before we push this down the road too far. Go to the insurance from the county saying, we'd support this on the back end, let me work out those details, have that there as a backstop, should he not get the USDA grant.
Because that's required from one of your grants.
Correct.
For the projects that are already done, this is the last part of that
This is
grant.
the last part of that whole project.
And if we don't do that, then you lose a good portion of that grant.
Then we'd go in, yeah, right, some of that money would have to move back.
So Jeff, you're looking for a decision today then, is that correct?
It'd be nice to have at least an informal vote of, or a show of support for this, and then we can work out some of the details with Mitch and possibly come back next week. But this is informative. If you're comfortable with a vote, that would be very much appreciated today.
I'm certainly in support of what you're doing. But again, maybe some of the details have to be filled in. Sure. So that's where I'm at.
I've sat with you and Mark on this, and we've talked about it, and I am in favor of this. I can't make a motion, but. So.
And the only concern I have is Tim isn't with us today. You know, I think it's just somebody that needs to sit in and hear this presentation too at the same time. That's just me. But I'm certainly supportive of what you're doing.
Do they approve the letter of intent?
It would probably go with the conservation board.
Anybody want to make a motion on this?
The motion would, what it's written here in the script is to provide a loan, but what you're really needing is this, a contingent letter of support.
So the contingent letter of support would most likely come from the conservation department. That's how that would go. And then what we need from this board would be the financial support backing up, the commitment to provide that financial support should it be needed. Perhaps that's how it could be worded.
We loan it to the conservation board, and the conservation board then loan it out.
That's a good question.
We should just explore some of the legal options and the legal side of stuff before you make a commitment of actual funds. I think that needs to be right on first, so.
If you need
If we
time
do
to
that,
work
we
this out,
gotta
I
make
mean,
sure it's clear that this is a loan,
Yeah.
cause I can't tie the PPA, you know, can't be, there'd be two agreements, power purchase agreement and then a separate loan.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's gonna mess with the tax credits if I assume I'm gonna get audited at some point in time. So we do things to make sure that we don't mess the tax credits up.
What do we need, do you think, for a motion to move this forward?
today.
Yes.
Well, I've just added, to provide a loan to support solar panel power purchase agreement, should it be needed. Or legal.
Contingent,
What's your question?
contingent on legal.
Mitch is questioning whether a loan from the county is, legal.
It just has to be for a public purpose, so I don't think we just did forgivable promissory notes for various residential projects. We've done that with just the transfer of the Heartland Family Service building, so as long as it is for a public purpose and saving yourself money would, I think, count. I'd obviously wanna take a look at whatever we've got in writing, because we're not in the banking business, but if it's to support a project, you know,
So,
saves us money, I don't see it probably
I
happening.
wanna say something to the effect, with legal's approval.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good?
Does that work, Matt?
It's fine for me. I mean, I'm not gonna approve something that's gonna be illegal.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, there's.
So I'll
there's
make a
problem with
motion to
that.
provide a loan to support solar panel power purchase agreement with, is it agreement for Hitchcock Nature Center with Red Lion Renewables,
Contingent upon legal approval.
contingent on legal's approval.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. I'm gonna call for a vote. Melvin?
You want me to do a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Brian
Just-
Sherry?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Jorgensen?
Aye.
And Bell?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank you
Got
very
through
much.
that. That was quite a while.
It's exciting.
It is.
It is.
Okay, next up, Mark Shoemaker, Executive Director of Conservation, and Jeff Franco, Deputy Director of Conservation. Discussion and or decision to approve pump house contract for park improvements.
All right, this is a last infrastructure improvement that we have at
Thank you,
Crescent
Terry.
Ridge. Thank you. Originally, we had an estimate that was around 100,000 for the pump house. We had, with the equipment that was going in it, we had engineered designs and specs that we needed to do on this building. And it came in at 152,000. And that was the low bid. We went through the bidding process, and this would come out of the funds that you have already approved.
And this will all be done before ski season starts?
Crucial.
That's the plan.
And I believe Garfield, you need that, we need this done.
We need this done.
Okay.
Well, I'll make that motion to approve the pump house contract.
And Garfield, you've reviewed the plans?
Yes,
Great.
yes. I've been at each meeting with Mark and Jeff when the contractor came out, so yes.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone approve, or disagree? Motion carried. Okay,
Thank you again.
thanks you guys. Thanks for going over that solar with us. That was good.
It's an exciting
I
opportunity.
appreciated the time you spent with us before. Okay, Lee Voss, County Treasurer. Discussion under decision to approve payment of taxes for county-owned property and drainage.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
You
against?
amend that motion, Mr. Belt, to say, payment of assessments rather than taxes?
Well, it should say, I assume that's what it is. It's all drainage. I didn't look at each one. I got the total here, 230752, but they,
Well, let's say, okay, there was probably taxes on the county-owned buildings.
well, I don't know.
And
Like I said,
assessments.
most of them look like they're drainage.
I don't know if the county-owned buildings are even on the rolls or not.
I don't think they are. These are all, assessments, not taxes. That's probably the way it should read. Okay.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, Tina Trentos, Operation Administrator, Secondary Roads. Discussion under decision on rehire of truck driver labor position and wages.
Yep, good morning. So I am just here to ask for the approval on a rehire of a former employee. When he left, he was a truck driver laborer, and that's what we'd like to hire him back as.
Is this the second person coming back?
No, not in our department.
Didn't we have somebody else come back just a week or two ago?
No, not our department anyways.
Really? Or is this, did we talk about this?
We talked about it.
God, I could have sworn we had somebody come back, okay.
I didn't talk about it.
Okay.
We have lots of internal actions, but.
Yeah, we have lots of internal movement. Maybe in the updates we send,
Yeah, that's what
it was posted externally, so maybe that's what you're
Okay.
thinking. And so when he left, he had been here for 8 years, was at the end of his stepping grade, and so that's where I would like to place him, is the same spot that he would be, which would be the pay grade 2 and step 8.
Okay. So where, do we know where he went?
I'm not sure where he went. I just know he was exploring a new career opportunity, and
How long ago was that?
he was only gone for 60 days.
Okay,
So
yeah, the story just seems like.
you might have more
maybe-
information than me, Scott.
Maybe, no, maybe it's this guy.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Well, when he left, his position was left open, is that right? He didn't rehire?
So when he left, we posted it internally,
Okay.
and we had a different internal applicant take his exact crew, but he's gonna be doing the same role on a different crew now.
Oh, okay.
So we post internally for 5 days, we had lots of movement, and then this was what went external to the public.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. And how did your presentation go at ISAC?
Good, I think there's still lots of work to do, but I think I baited myself to be helping a lot of other counties out, it sounds like, so.
What were you presenting on?
The entry-level driver training with the new CDL requirements.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Good.
Good job.
Thanks, Tina. Okay, next up, our committee appointments, meetings. Anybody got anything?
Well,
I went to Advanced Southwest Iowa. They had a lunch meeting, met the new chamber president, Heath, I can't remember his last name.
they got two?
Yeah, from Omaha.
Huh,
He's for both.
for
No.
both.
You know how he floats?
He's gonna be for Omaha
Well,
and our chamber both?
Ain't that what they had before?
No.
That was this one on this side.
Pardon?
He's over here in Iowa. Went to GIS. I spent some time with them guys. I went to a bunch of little towns through the week. And then there was Advanced Southwest Iowa meeting last Friday. And then we had a WIDA meeting and a bicycle trail meeting. So, busy week.
I attended the ISAC meeting in Des Moines. It wasn't quite the agenda that I was hoping for, but there were some things of value that I pulled out of it. There was a session on reviewing how the legislation really works, and I thought,
Or doesn't?
well, there were some suggestions made of ways we could work with them to make it better. So we might follow through with those. And then I was with the new WIDA director, Stacy Kenny, yesterday, and we did some introductions in Avoca and did a ribbon cutting up there. So she's hit the ground running.
Where did Stacy Kinney come from?
She is from Council Bluffs,
Okay.
and we need to get a press release out, so
Yep.
we'll work on
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Which got work with you on it?
Great.
Yeah.
Yep, that'll be good. Okay.
And then we also need to talk about scheduling a town hall for out in the county, probably in September before harvest starts. And it's gonna be starting,
It's already starting. They
Yeah.
were chopping yesterday.
yeah. But we've got the CO2 pipeline inspectors that we can talk about, and then the solar and wind ordinances.
Okay.
We're just basic agenda items, and if we can set up a date, I can work with the department heads to fill out the agenda.
Had a phone call this morning with the CEO of Jenny Edmondson. They're partnering with this new mental health hospital. And he would like us to review a letter of support for them for next week, if we could.
Okay.
He said that would be a big deal for them. And I think that can be very good for Southwest Iowa.
This would be like a McDermott for Jenny.
I can't hear you.
This would be like a McDermott for Jenny.
It's a private company. They're gonna invest about 56 million into this hospital. I thought it was 96 beds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down on 24th Street.
Right.
If it happens. With
And
another hospital in, trying to think. For some reason, I wanna say Omni, but it's my, Avera or,
I left my notes on that at home.
yeah, she got.
It's not Omni, it's, too many things running around my brain. But if we could get that on the agenda next week and give them a letter of support, he said that'd go a long ways. So, okay, next up is public comments. We got some public comment, people? Let me read this. Ready, Melvin? Now begins our public comment portion of the agenda. In an effort to protect the privacy of individuals and reduce the potential broadcasting of defamatory and/or confidential information, our live broadcast will now end. Information regarding public comments and public comment policy can be available upon request. The board will now allow up to 30 minutes for comments